Hey Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. I hope everyone's had a great week, a great stitch-filled week, unlike your friend here. I've gotten very little stitching done this week. I worked on some Smoky Mountain Christmas about that much last weekend after completing my video, and so I don't really have much to share. The other thing I did get a chance to work on was a needle book that I'm participating in a stitch along for, and I had to back stitch outline 10 different pages. So I completed that actually yesterday. So I'm not going to bore you with showing you 10 squares on a piece of fabric. So this week I thought I'd tell you just kind of what I've been up to this past week and share with you. I have a stack of finished stitch items, not fully finished, just the stitching has been completed on it. And I thought I would share them with you in no real particular order, but just kind of talk about some of them. This week we started league bowling, my husband and I. He had signed us up for a bowling league at a local alley here. And as a child, that was my sport. From the time I was 6 until my early 20s, I bowled in a league. And as a teenager, I was actually bowling in women's leagues and not teen leagues. And I was pretty good at it. But it has been at least 18 to 20 years since I've bowled in a league, and I feel like I've forgotten everything. Not everything, that's a little exaggeration, but I have definitely lost my groove. So this week, because I want to be decent, I want to go out there and get a decent score and have a decent, what I consider a decent average. So we have actually been practicing this week. So in addition to our first league bowling night, which was this past Thursday, we have practice bowled 3 different times this week, and one of those times was today before this video. So we started Thursday night, and we are a part of a mixed bowling league, which means it's both men and women in the teams. We are bowling with Clint's older brother and his girlfriend, so it's a 4-man team, and we did pretty good. Lisa, which is my brother-in-law's girlfriend, she has never bowled before, but she did pretty well. And then my brother-in-law and my husband have both bowled on and off through the years in our adult life, so they're not quite as out of practice as I am, but it's been a while since they've bowled in a league, so we're all just kind of reacclimating ourselves to bowling. And it was little things that I've forgotten, like how right here, your thumb will get a little bit sore from just throwing the ball and lifting the ball. And just the weight of the ball itself, grabbing it with your hands. It's little things like that that it's not things that I can't do. It's things that I had forgotten that, oh yeah, this will happen or that will happen. And over the years, I had gotten rid of my ball and my shoes and my bowling bag and things like that. So this past 2 weeks, since he signed us up for the league, I've had to get all those items again so that I can participate in bowling the league. So we went Thursday night, and you bowl 3 games each time you go against the opposing team, and you can win each game individually, and then each team will either win or lose total pins. So you have the opportunity to win 4 games, 3 that are bowled, and the 4th would be the total pins of both games, and whoever has the highest of those will win total pins. So we won all 3 of the games, but lost total pins. But I thought that was pretty good for that to be our first time back in an alley bowling on a league. And I am really looking forward to it. I still have more practicing to do because I want to be decent at it. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to the competition and seeing old friends that are still bowling and bowling along with them or beside them. My stepdad actually bowls in a league that's at the same alley on the opposite side from we are, so he was there as well with his teammates that have been his teammates for years and years. And so I got to see a lot of those guys, and that is a men's league. So they're a men's league on one side, and then of course the mixed league on the other. There's actually 16 teams in the league that we're bowling in, and we're going to bowl, I think it's 36 weeks, so this was the past week was the first week, 36 weeks, and of course we'll take vacation from it, like Christmas holidays, that kind of thing, but 36 weeks. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have a great time, and just participating with other people our age. Just looking forward with it. So you're here for the stitching, not for the bowling, right? No stashing this week. I bought nothing. No stitching. So let's get to past finishes. This is an old Brenda Gervais. This, you can even see my Q-snap marks. This was not actually a pattern released through With Thy Needle and Thread. This is one she had on her blog back in the day. And I believe that she does, if I remember right, she was on her blog, she would link. It was a eagle cam, and this camera was focused on an eagle's nest. And so you got to watch the eaglets hatch, and be cared for by the parents until they flew the nest. And it was just what she was into at that time. And she designed this pattern, and I believe that a part of the proceeds from this pattern, it was only available on her blog, went to help fund those cams. And so I was interested in her excitement about it, got me interested in it, and then I wanted to help her with purchasing this pattern, so I did. And so that shows those two eagles with their eaglets. And you can see that was in 2011. What I found interesting is when I pulled these patterns out to look at them, how my tastes have changed over the years. Now that was 2011, so that was only 8 years ago. So I like some of the same things, but you'll see as I show you different ones that my tastes have very much changed. Now this is an old Kathy Barrick, and I think this was either Caged Bird or Red, no, it's not Red Bird, I think it's Caged Bird. Don't quote me on it. But you can see it's a relatively small pattern. I stitched this in 2012. And I remember thinking the bird was going to be, based on the outside, was going to be either red with like lighter pink highlights. But it's much more rust. It's not even red. It's a dark rusty color bird. And so I don't have this one framed. I don't see myself framing it. And I know a lot of you are going to tell me, oh, you need to have that framed. I'm very much a process stitcher. You can see by what's on the walls. I do frame, but at the same time, I just like to stitch. Framing's an expensive part of it. And it's not that I don't like these pieces or I don't enjoy them. Something has to be frame-worthy, meaning I'm willing to pay the money to have it framed. And some of these aren't, like the eaglet sampler. I may fix that into a pillow one day. But I would never frame it and put it on my wall. If that makes sense. Not that it's ugly. I enjoyed stitching it. But like I said, I'm just a process stitcher. Now this one I do want to frame. I said all that to say, this one I do want to frame. This, I believe, is an Erica Michaels. And this is the second inaugural address of Abraham Lincoln. And I love the wording in here. And it was my first piece with silks. I believe there's only 3 colors in this. And I actually took this one to have it framed at one point when the kids were smaller. And it was around $300 to have it framed. And I turned around and brought it back. I got the quote, but I come back thinking, I'm not going to frame that. Even though things have changed, and I may be more willing to have it framed now, I just haven't. But let me read it to you, just because I like the wording. When I look back and read the Declaration of Independence or things, the wording, we just do not speak like this anymore, and it's just poetic in its own way. So anyway, with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and a lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Gosh, that was a brilliant man. Next, this one is another one day I do want to frame, and he's going to cost a lot. But this, I've shown him before in the past, but this is Tut's mask. And he is slap full, as we say in the South. Slap means a whole lot of. Slap full of Krynic. If it's not stitched with Krynic, the spaces that aren't completely Krynic are blended with Krynic or filament. Look at that. I think he's amazing. I just love it. I love Egyptian history. And this is easily recognizable by most anyone as Tut's mask. So it's a priceless item. Priceless, that's a word when you really think of it. There can be no price associated with it. You know, there would be no way to replace that mask if something were to happen to it. Not my piece, but the actual mask. Okay. This one is a Lynn Nicoletti. I think this one I stitched in the 90s. I enjoyed this one because it is, I think it's stitched 2/2 on, looks like 28 count. It's an even weave, but it was like one of those Seek and Find, I Spy. And if you look at him, this is Poseidon. And if you look, you can see his trident in his nose. And if you look down at his mustache, it is actually 2 fish, one on each side, and their tails are the bottom of his mustache. His chin is a seashell. And if you look at the center of his forehead and you look at the blue, you can and follow it around. The blue is actually the hair of a mermaid, and she is back bent, and her tail goes down his cheek, around his eye and down his cheek. The other side of his face, there's a seahorse, and there is a starfish there in his eye. So this one was just a fun stitch. What will I do with it? Put it right back where I had it. I will probably never frame this, but I just thought he was a very interesting and fun stitch. And this is a Mirabilia. You can see a Mirabilia here. Let me pan it up. I don't know when I last showed this stuff up here, if I have, but that is Deepest Love. And my friend Ann, she actually stitched the head and part of the hair on that, and then she decided she didn't want to stitch it, and I have finished it up for her. And I have a few other of the large mermaids. I stitched one each for my girls, and then my favorites are, let me spin you around. You can't see one of them for the glare, but that's Autumn Queen over here. And this one is, I don't remember, but she is my favorite. I love the colors in her dress. So, there's those. But this one is one of her pixies, and I can't remember the name of this one. She just kind of reminded me of a flapper. I love how you can see the shadow of her body and her arms through her wings. But it's a beautiful piece. Maybe one day I'll have a granddaughter and I can share that one with her. I'm just flipping through. Both of these, I want to say maybe these were Elizabeth designs. Some of you may recognize them. There's this one. That's Beehive, and it has some of the specialty stitches, satin stitches, that kind of thing in there. And this one I stitched in 98. I remember I was pregnant with Jacob, and I was working on this, waiting for him to be born. And it has some of the variegated Needle Necessity thread, if you remember that company, there on the sides. And it looks like at some point, Kool-Aid. And then this is another of that same series, and this is Scarecrow, and this one I did in 2003. Once again, the Needle Necessities on the edge, the same type of border. You can see the wheat, how it's done with satin stitches that are wrapped there in the center, just lots of eyelets and Smyrna crosses and things throughout it. Made them fun stitches. They were challenging and fun stitches. And some of these, you know, at one time I would just go online when we first got a computer, and I would look up cross-stitch patterns, free cross-stitch patterns. And I would find things like this. And I would have leftover bits of fabric. And because I didn't have a lot of money to go out and visit a shop and buy things, I would stitch with what I had. And like I said, I would end up with little freebie patterns like this one. It's cute, even now. But I'm thankful that I can go out and purchase things that I really want to stitch now. Not just searching for things that I can find for free. This is a fun stitch too. This is from, you'll recognize these, possibly. And this one's gotten wrinkled, so it's going to be a booger to actually iron this out with the buttons on it. But this is one of the Raise the Roof designs. And so it's the Halloween fence. I also have the one that's the beach fence, I think. But this was a fun stitch too. I thought the mummy in the middle was just a genius way to... If you ever wanted to dress your fence up like for Halloween as a mummy, there you go. And this is an old Blackbird design. It come out of one of their booklets that me and some friends stitched while we were at the beach one year. We all stitched them in different colors. I wish I had stitched mine in a darker color, but I'm sure I was going for the ocean blue color. So there's that. And this is one of my first ones I stitched out of high school. Look at the back. See where you can see where I stitched in a hoop. See my handles from holding it. Because I'm a left-handed stitcher, and so I hold with my right, and this is where I was holding it. But I love this one. I do eventually want to get him framed. I think he is just the sweetest Santa. There's something about a man in a jolly fat man in a red suit. Didn't give much room over here, though, did I? And this is an old, I think this is a waxing moon. This is another Halloween. This is Hocus Pocus. I'm sure I bought this after watching that movie. You know, the movie Hocus Pocus. My girls loved it. I loved it too. But I'm sure that's why I stitched this. And what else do we have in here? Here's a shepherd's bush. This is Far, far away on Judah's plains. Shepherds of old heard the joyous strains. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Excuse me. There's this one. You always know a shepherd's bush when you see it, don't you? This is a beautiful piece, and I love, once again, how challenging shepherd's bush pieces can be. It keeps you interested with all those specialty stitches, so I always enjoy those. And this is a humongous one, and I doubt I will ever frame it, but I remember that I was in training for work. So I stitched this in 2010, and this is Sea Stars by Ink Circles. This is the Call for Colors, but I always call this piece Nessie, just because of the monster there at the very bottom. It was a fun stitch, interesting stitch, so it was my first Quaker style, but I thought this was so much fun. You could see the seahorse, the octopus, the fish, a lot of fun, beautiful colors. But you see how big this is. I probably will never frame it, but I'm never going to gift it away either. And this is a blackbird. I think this is something another cherries. But it says, I value my garden more for being full of blackbirds than of cherries, and very frankly, give them fruit for their songs. Now this one I will eventually frame. I think this is a beautiful piece. Another frame-worthy piece. Meaning I'm willing to pay the money to have this one framed too. But this is the Serenity Prayer, and it's by Erica Michaels, and it is on silk gauze. So here's the piece. Here's my hand. Isn't that beautiful? Love it. Love it. Let me show you again. Some of these I stitched last year, so I'm not going to show you those. Like this one. Did I just say I wasn't going to show it to you? That is a beautiful piece. And this is an old Lizzie Kate. I love this one, Life's a Stitch. Love the colors of it. I love the fabric color. It's typical Lizzie Kate. That's another one. Shepherd's Bush, you know a Shepherd's Bush. Lizzie Kate, same thing. No mistake in it. And then, what do we have? I keep running across a lot of them that I just found something to stitch, and this is one of them too. This is a Griffin. I stitched this way before Harry Potter. It was just a free pattern I found somewhere and got the colors and stitched them. I think it was stitched in like 437 and that shade area. And who doesn't have a gobs of 437? I mean, it's a color that's common in most patterns. Another Lizzie Kate, cross stitcher in residence. This I think is an imaginating design, and it's a monochrome piece. I think it's called Bethlehem. I stitched this years ago, and if you look, I stitched it on Ada. I stitched it on Ada because I absolutely loved the color of the fabric, and it lent itself to the night sky. So I chose the fabric, and then I chose the thread color. And that's the great thing about monochrome pieces, that you can go with whatever fabric choice and stitch it with a solid color or whatever solid color fabric, and then variegated thread. It lends itself to so many ideas and so many changes. It just depends on the stitcher, but this is how mine turned out. I think this is Da Vinci. Picture this plus Da Vinci. I think it's a gorgeous piece of fabric. This one, I don't even remember the name of the pattern. I don't remember who stitched it. I have another one of these Santas, so I guess I could look the pattern up. But he was a lot of fun to stitch. He stitched on a high or a low count fabric. You can see right through it just about. See my thumb? And he has specialty stitches in his beard. And he was beautiful in his simplicity. Just straight lines and variegated thread, just a few thread colors. And you can see the string he's holding has a candy cane and snowflakes and peppermints. He was fun. And then there's this, and this is a freebie from Jardin Privé. I stitched this just a long time ago. I think it was like a stitch along in one of the groups. And it was a freebie pattern on their site. And I got it and downloaded it and stitched it. And then this is a stitch along I did a long time ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. My friend Karen came down for a visit down from Arizona, and she and Natasha and I went to the stitching frame in Rock Hill together one day, and we decided whatever we were going to get, we were going to stitch it over one. Crazy pants, that's what we were, just crazy. So this is, oh my goodness, Hibernation Day by Heartstring Stamplery. It needs a good pressing. You can see how I've distorted it. Can you see how it slants a little bit? Because I had it on a Q-snap. But it is a little bit distorted. But this is Hibernation Day over one. And I stitched that in 2015, you can see at the bottom. So I put my husband's initials and my initials at the bottom. It's a great little sampler. Someone's stitching it right now. Who was it stitching it? Anyway, I don't remember. But I love these. There's something about a bowl of fruit that I'm drawn to. I love them. But now as it's closer, you see what I mean about it slanted downwards to the right a little bit? And this is another ink circles. My friend Kathy started it, but it was supposed to be like this. And she started it like this on accident. I think she had like 2 of them done. And she decided she didn't want to do it. And I said, hand that over. Don't you throw that fabric away. I'll give it a good home. I'll take care of it. So I finished it up. And like I said, this is Metamorphosis by Ink Circle. And this is a great piece. It's fun. Love the colors. Those deep jewel tone colors. They're nice. Maybe 1 or 2 more. What do you say? I think this is another freebie by Brenda Gervais that came out a couple years ago. This is 2015. And this is Weary World Rejoices by Kitten Stitcher, Shakespeare's Peddler. I love this one. This one's frame worthy too. I really need to frame it for Christmas. There's that one. And I'm going to leave you with one more, and this is another Mirabilia. This is Bluebell, I think. I stitched her with an online stitch along. I think one of the mirror groups a few years ago. We started her in January. So she's beautiful too. That will be for my other granddaughter one day. So I'm going to at least need 2 so I can give those to them. I take that back. I'm going to show you another one. Another Mira. I still love a Mira. This is, it's not Gypsy. I purchased the supplies at the very first Mirabilia retreat in Greenville, South Carolina for this piece. Did a floss toss on it. Stitched it up. Love it. Love it. Still haven't framed it. Beautiful, beautiful piece. Last one, I swear. This is Doxology by My Big Toe. Another one I love. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him, above ye heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I love that border there on the side. 3 colors. Sometimes less is more, isn't it? All right, that's all I'm going to show you today. I do have several more, but I'll spare you. I hope everyone has a great week. I hope you get lots of stitching done. I hope everyone stays safe here on the East Coast. We don't know where Dorian's going to land. I think he's in Bahamas right now, so I wish all them prayers, and we'll see in the next couple of days. I hope that, with all hope, that Dorian just continues to turn and turns right on back out into the ocean and doesn't hit the shore. But anyway, I hope to continue working on Smoky Mountain Christmas this week. Finish my front and back pages of my needle book. And until next time, hugs and stitches. See you soon. Bye-bye.